This is big breaking news. A presidential announcement was just made that big changes are coming this Saturday, and this is going to potentially affect the supply chain and potentially affect prices and availability of some things for a little bit as well too. So let's get into all the details here really quick, guys. Please just hit that like and hit that subscribe. I'm posting multiple videos every single day, keeping you guys updated on this big urgent news, and it just helps to get these warnings out. I appreciate that. So this is what's going on. Trump just made this announcement. He just reiterated that this Saturday on February 1st that these tariffs are going to go into place. And this is big. This is a 25% tariff that's going to go into place for Canada and Mexico. This was just announced today. He reiterated it. He said this about a week ago that this was going to happen, but he confirmed that it's 100% going to happen now, because he's saying Canada and Mexico have not agreed to the terms that he wants for border policy and for immigration policy to help him on these things and coordination, right? He needs both of these countries to help fix this issue, and he's saying they're not doing it. So I want you to listen to Trump really quick, and then we will get into more details of all the items that are potentially going to be affected, and even how much things could go up in price, certain things as well too, or even go down in price. Let's listen to this really quick.
Trump warned them, and they didn't listen.
So we'll be announcing the tariffs on Canada and Mexico for a number of reasons. Number one is the people that have poured into our country so horribly and so much. Number two are the drugs, fentanyl, and everything else that have come into the country. And number three are the massive subsidies that we're giving to Canada and to Mexico in the form of deficits. And I'll be putting the tariff of 25% on Canada and separately 25% on Mexico.
The tariffs go into effect Saturday, so buy your maple syrup and Corona now.
All right, so you heard that there. Saturday, this is happening. And the things that could potentially be affected, there's a long list of items, but nothing too critical where we're going to see any major issues, but prices could go up a little bit. Even things like oil from Canada are going to be affected by this. But just to put it in perspective of how much this would actually even make things go up, right? The U.S. consumes an average of about 20 million barrels per day, and the U.S. produces 13 million of those barrels by itself, and it imports around 3.9 million barrels per day from Canada. So that's around 19% of the daily use. So around 19% of our oil comes from Canada. So if that 19% went up 25% in price, it would only be an average of around 10 to 15 cents that this would rise per gallon, right? And then if the U.S. was able to offset this by increasing oil production and drilling, which Trump is signing orders on as well too, freeing up a lot of federal land for access to these things that was previously denied in the Biden administration. He cut off a lot of access to drilling, especially on federal lands and federal leases, and Trump has reversed a lot of that. So we could make up that 3.9 million barrels as well too, and Canada could just start helping the U.S. on this border crisis. So if gas was $3 a gallon, I came to this number, 20% of that is 60 cents. So every 60 cents out of $3 out of every gallon is coming from Canada, potentially. So if that 60 cents raises 25%, it'd be 75 cents, which is 15 cents. All right. So if gas is $3 a gallon on average, it could raise about 15 cents. It could go to $3.15 from these tariffs potentially. And certain areas are going to be more heavily affected than others, like the Northeast, New York, New England are going to be more heavily affected because they're more dependent on Canadian oil. Also, things like lumber and wood could potentially be affected, building materials, aluminum, electrical equipment, maple syrup, paper products, things like that are going to be affected from Canada mostly. Those are going to be the most heavily hit items: lumber, wood, paper products, things like that are going to go up in price. And also from Mexico, the biggest items that are going to be affected is mostly winter vegetables and winter fruits right now. So it is winter time for the majority of the country. The only place that's really growing any type of fruit is Florida. They have citrus going in the winter time. And also California, they grow a lot of the nation's winter vegetables and winter fruits in Southern California. But also a decent percentage of this does come from Mexico, so we could see increased prices on things like avocados, tomatoes, peppers, strawberries, citrus, things like that, beans, corn, berries, cucumbers, broccoli, onions, sugar, cauliflower. A lot of these things are only growing right now in Mexico or Southern California or Florida. So we could see these prices rise, but once again, it'll probably only be by the cents for the average consumer. And overall, this is going to push production to happen more in the United States, which is going to eventually lower prices in the long term and keep that money here inside the United States, right? Which is a major bonus, because a lot of this money just gets spent in other countries instead of staying here and staying locally. So that would be a bonus as well too. Also things like electronics from Mexico and car parts, automotives. Apparently I was looking into this, over 100 billion. Some numbers estimate $150 billion per year in automotive and automotive car parts are imported into the US from Mexico, right? Very big number. And a lot of these companies are even American companies, or even European companies, foreign companies. They're not even, it's not like they're a Mexican car company. These are all domestic or other foreign companies that are importing these goods into the US by the hundreds of billions every single year, instead of just producing it inside the US right across the border. And these tariffs kind of provide a incentive for that to happen, right? Because it's like you're going to have to pay 25% more, so you might as well just pay that 25% more to American workers and keep these jobs locally. And it's a national security issue as well too, because all of our factories and all of our production has been exported overseas and to other countries for decades now. And if there ever is a war or some type of major issue in the supply chain or anything, right? What happens if something happens to China? What happens if their economy completely collapses, or there's a massive war with them and we are cut off from all of the production that we've exported to them over the decades, right? It would take a while to build these factories and build this production here, and these tariffs incentivize that to happen now sooner than later. So we have these things domestically, right? If the military ever needs to ramp up production, we can do it here, right? So thank you guys. I hope you guys are staying safe, staying prepared out there, staying stocked up. All right, there's also some other things that could be affected. Medicines could be affected too if you need to get stocked up on that. A lot of our medications are actually made in Mexico and overseas. There's talk of other tariffs potentially on China as well too, so maybe get stocked up on that as well if you are running low, or if you need it and you're worried that there could be shortages or prices could go up. So thank you guys. Hope you have big blessings for your life and your family, and I hope you have a big old blessed day.